I was discovered a few years back that Tennessee Williams also wrote poems. And in 1964, he published a collection of poems called In the Winter of Cities. I'm going to share with you a few poems, a couple of mine and a couple of Tennessee's. And I would love to tell you all sorts of things about this poem, but I'm just going to shut up and read it. But just real quick, did everybody know that he wrote poems? Raise your hands if you didn't know that Tennessee Williams wrote poems, and lots of them. Okay. I'm thrilled to be the one to introduce you to the poetry of Tennessee Williams. This is his poem, Life Story. After you've been to bed together for the first time, without the advantage or disadvantage of any prior acquaintance, the other party very often says to you, "Tell me about yourself. I want to know all about you. What's your story?" And you think maybe they really and truly do sincerely want to know your life story. And so you light up a cigarette and begin to tell it to them, the two of you lying together in completely relaxed positions like a pair of rag dolls, a bored child dropped on a bed. You tell them your story, or as much of your story as time and a fair degree of prudence allows, and they say, "Oh, oh, oh. Oh, oh." Each time a little more faintly until the "oh" is just an audible breath. And then, of course, there's some interruption. Slow room service comes up with a bowl of melting ice cubes, or one of you rises to pee and gaze at himself with mild astonishment in the bathroom mirror. And then the first thing you know, before you've had time to pick up where you left off with your enthralling life story, they're telling you their life story exactly as they'd intended to all along. And you're saying, "Oh, oh, 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 oh." Each time a little more faintly, the vowel at last becoming no more than an audible sigh as the elevator halfway down the corridor and a turn to the left draws one last long deep breath of exhaustion and stops breathing forever. Then, well, one of you falls asleep, and the other one does likewise, with a lighted cigarette in his mouth, and that's how people burn to death in hotel rooms. Anyway, that was the first poem of his I came across. I was shocked. I thought, what a dynamite closer that is. Just anyway. I'd like to make a disclaimer for this poem of mine, but I can't think of one. I challenged myself to try to write something for this evening, and so what I did was I decided I would write a poem where all the end words had to be drawn anagrammatically out of the phrase "cat on a hot tin roof." I could only use N words that used letters from that phrase. Not all of them, but those were the only letters I had to choose from. And so even the title comes from those letters. This is Oath. Don't forget to lose your raincoat. We've sold our clouds for a carton of cigarettes. The weather in America has become a cartoon. A little talking flower in the throat, an invisible cat in your only chair. Put out your hand and feel the air there and there. It won't rain anytime soon, not like it used to when it came home late, frantic, drunk as a child's library, one foot bare, the other dragging a chain. Remember the sound of it, counting itself out on a china-berry table by the bed, coin by coin? No more. But have faith in the sky, in the skull of Africa. Something will fall, an anchor, an alibi, a great green acorn, and find a way to take root. The oldest known alternative fact is that truth rhymes with tooth for a reason. It spites. That's art. Many of us lose sight of the fact that in these enlightened times, in the early 60s, people were still getting arrested for being gay, for gathering. And Williams released his book of poems in '64. And he was quite upfront about his sexuality, but that's not a small admission, and there's no real making sense of it, because it wasn't, you know, there were things that would seem to contradict each other, which is true of any period in history, that somehow managed to coexist. But we forget that when they raided a club in New York, they published the names of everyone they arrested. And those names didn't appear like in a small tabloid. They weren't in the Penny Saver. They were in the Times. And that morning, everybody listed got fired. And the reason wasn't something sort of vague, well, you've been here with us a while and we need to make room. No, the reason you were fired was you were gay. And that was just an acceptable reason. And so with that in mind, here is Tennessee Williams' lyric poem, Carousel Tune. Turn again. Turn again, turn once again. The freaks of the cosmic circus are men. We are the gooks and geeks of creation. Believe it or not is the name of our star. Each of us here thinks the other is queer, and no one's mistaken, since all of us are. Turn again, turn once again. The freaks of the cosmic circus are men. We sweat and we fume in a four-cornered room, and love is the reason. But what does love do? It gives willy-nilly to poor silly Billy the chance to discover what Daddy went through. Turn again, turn once again. The freaks of the cosmic circus are men. We may hum and hop like a musical top, or stop like a clock that's run down, but why be done-hearted? The season's just started, and new shows are coming to town. Turn again, turn once again. The freaks of the cosmic circus are men. I'm going to cut my reading short and do, because, I mean, at this point, you're all going to receive your MFAs as you walk out the building. You've had, like, amazing work tonight. Yeah, I was going to do a particular poem, but I'm going to trim it down to this. Let's just say there's big daddies in this poem. Yeah, okay. A giant in the field. I don't think I ever caught his name. I was a child and he was just another grown-up, a minor god of some gray pantheon. I don't know why I was there, but I guess the babysitter was busy. I wore a clip-on necktie and I can see my good shoes flashing under my table. It must have been a company dinner, something from my father's work. An MC spoke from a podium, made jokes I didn't get, but I laughed anyway because my parents did. Their laughter was a thing I liked to ride, a wave, a wagon. There was big food and cigarettes. I remember staring at some anthuriums and thinking how ferocious they looked, how like dinosaur flowers that might spit poison if you got too close. And that's when the guest of honor was introduced as a real giant in the field. And I looked up over all the dark heads, ready to see the giant, ready to see someone truly enormous wearing a boat for a hat or eating a whole cow like an egg roll, making great big footprints down the aisle. But it was only the man I'd seen before. Maybe the giant was still in the field. Yes, that was it. This man was here to accept the award because the giant was busy, standing in wheat or maybe cotton, which I just learned about in school. He had to stay at his post waiting for bad children to walk by so he could offer them gold or beans or a chance to save their lives. But couldn't this guy handle it instead? Surely giants can have a night off to get a trophy. The kids in the field would still get what they deserved. At last, no giant came to the microphone, just this wimpy god saying thank you and sweating. I remember he cried at the end, how he used one finger to stop a tear, a gesture I later copied. I did it this morning. The news was on, and there were pictures of smoke, a woman turning rubble with her hands. I'm not sure what occurred, but there were sirens, and a whole house flattened by something huge, something that had moved on. Thank you so much.